Hey everybody, Nick Bakes Plays here, and time to go over my champion tier list extravaganza. This is the current updated version of what I think are the best champions in Legends of Runeterra in order. Well, I guess it's all the champions technically. And whether you think it's factional or opinional, it's up to you, but let's get into it. So, best champion in the game, Twisted Fate. He's actually a pretty fair best champion. Previously, Trundle and Elise were the best champions, they just got nerfed. And I'm happy it's Twisted Fate's best champion. He's really good because his level 1 form is versatile. It gives you the option to use gold card, red card, or blue card, which is actually relatively fair. The best one is red card usually, especially used with kegs. He's played in the Go Hard deck, which is the best deck right now. But the bonus is that he's very easy to level up if you draw a double Twisted Fate. If you draw 2 Twisted Fates, you can use Twisted Fates, pick a card, and then you can level him up. And when you level him up, you pretty much instantly win the game. He's mostly good because of versatility between gold card and red card, but if you do draw double Twisted Fate, you can level him up, and that's amazing. So he's just a well-rounded generic good champion. I'm happy he's the best in the game. I think if there were one to be the best, and it's him, it's fine by me. So pretty happy about Twisted Fate's placing. Next is Draven. So I haven't seen Draven or Elise in S tier in a long time, and they just shine so well this format. Right now, Draven's using Draven Ezreal. It's using Draven Jinx. Basically, however you use Draven is fine right now, because he's a 3-mana 3/3 with quick attack. And when he attacks on 3, nothing can really deal with him. If you block him, you're losing a unit, you're losing a blocker. If you don't block him, you're taking 3 damage, and he gives you 2 axes. The axes are just 0 mana cards, but you can use them to discard for Rummage, to generate them, kind of use them for fuel to draw 2 real cards through Rummage. That's really good in the Draven Ezreal deck. They're very good in the Draven Jinx deck to pack on huge damage and empty your hand for Jinx. He's just self-sufficient. When he's summoned and then attacks, he does damage and gives you 2 cards to your hand. So, one of the best reps in the game, if not the best. Really good card. Next is Elise. So, Elise is actually amazing, mostly for her level 1 form. When she's level 1, she's a 2/3 with Fearsome. When she attacks, she summons the Spider. The reason she's so good is that most things just can't deal with that right now. A lot of the format can't block Fearsomes. That's why Fearsomes are so good. She's using Go Hard and Fearsomes, which are 2 of the best decks in the game. She's a good body. I mean, 2/3 stats is really good for a 2-drop. Summoning a 1/1 is amazing because that can be used to block things that have 1 health or chip away damage on enemies. For example, in the Go Hard deck, if you attack with the Elise, you get the Spider. If they block the Spider with, like, say, a 2/2, then you can use Go Hard to finish off the enemy's health. So it kind of whittles away your opponent's health. It's hard to deal with. A lot of things can't block it. And if you get the level up in Fearsome deck, you can hook away a lot of their blockers and go for big damage through the Challenger and the Fearsome and such with all the spiders on a level up form. So I think Draven and Elise are both S tier because they're super self-sufficient. Elise is one of the best 2-drops in the game, if not the best. Draven's one of the best 3-drops in the game, if not the best. And Twisted Fate is just amazing for being versatile through red card, blue card, gold card. And if you do get his level up form, then you usually just win. Next is Ezreal. So Ezreal in the past has been the best champion in the game, but they nerfed him quite a bit, and now they just buffed him again. So he's back, but different this time. I think he's really good because he can just rack on so much damage. If you, how do I put it? He levels up easily just by getting 6 targets on enemies with spells and stuff like that. So he's easy to level up, so you usually see him in his level 2 form. Then if he attacks, it's 2 damage. He gets a Mystic Shot to his hand, which can either be used to remove an enemy unit or on the Nexus for 3 damage. So just by attacking, he already has guaranteed 5 damage. And if you can also use them to clear the enemies and deal big damage. A lot of things can't deal with him, and it just, the existence of him on the field is very easy to pile on. I mean, he can easily do 12 plus damage. That's basically the way I see it. He can easily do 12 plus damage. He gives you a removal if things can't deal with him in the mid game. So he's good mid game, good late game, and easy to level up. Alright, next we have Jinx. Jinx is actually insane. She used to be super low tier, like one of the worst in the game. Now she's really good. They just buffed her, but even before that, it's mostly because she's as good as the discard deck is, the discard aggro Draven Jinx is. She's insane right now because it's super easy to apply big pressure with the discard aggro Draven Jinx deck, and then all you have to do is get your opponent around like 12 health, and then you just do 3, you draw 2 cards a turn with her level up form, you do 3 super mega death rockets, and destroys the main Nexus. She just got buffed, so if you level her up, if you empty your hand that same turn you level her up, then you get a mega death, super mega death rocket. So basically, you play her, you play Rummage, discard 2 cards in your hand, you draw 2. She levels up. Then if you draw another Rummage or like a Poro Cannon or something, you empty your hand again, you can get a rocket that turn when she does 4 damage to every Nexus. So it's really easy to just push huge damage with her. Anytime your opponent gets relatively low life, even near 10 life, you can threaten lethal over the next few turns. She draws 2 cards a turn, which is refueling your hand every turn. So she basically just is a whole engine in herself, just leveling up, drawing cards, dealing damage, drawing more cards, dealing more damage, and a lot of games just come down to having Jinx, and if you can't deal with her, they win. And not to mention, she has quick attack and 5 attack, which is leveled up. Very powerful because when you're blowing up their field every turn, they kind of lose some blockers, and then you can try and chip in for a quick 5. And yeah, basically she just has insane damage output and draws 2 cards a turn. Alright, next! Trundle. He's nerfed, but still amazing. He still gets crazy overwhelm. Ice Pillar's good. He's just a mainstay in Shadow of Freyord, Tryndamere. And that's a tier 1 deck right now. It has an amazing matchup spread. I guess he's really good because that archetype is just so good against the matchup tables in the metagame. Shadow of Freyord control runs cards like Avalanche and Runation and Withering Wail and Harsh Winds and all kinds of removal and heals and ramp. And it's just a really solid strategy with Feel the Rush. And Trundle perfectly complements it because it can hold it on the mid game. Ice Pillar's still amazing. Off Feel the Rush, you play Trundle, he can easily he gets 10th Overwhelm. Tryndamere is also 10/10 with Overwhelm off Feel the Rush, so he stabilizes the mid game. He works well in the deck, and he's kind of just like a puzzle piece that fits it all together. So he's really good. Next is Karma. Karma's debatably the best champion in the game, straight up. But the thing with Karma is that she always hasn't had a deck that truly lets her shine. Back when Ezreal Karma was not nerfed, Ezreal and Karma both got nerfed at one point. Back before they were nerfed, they were probably the best 2 champions. But since then, Karma's had a harder time finding a deck to stay in. You have Go Hard, Spooky Karma has made a comeback, and that's nice, gives her a home. But basically, her level form is broken. Just straight up, it's like one of the best cards in the whole game. Duplicating all your spells, pretty much anything can't deal with that. Even if it's just simple spells, like for example, the Go Hard deck, even if they don't draw Go Hard, you can just double Withering Wail, stuff like that. It just blows up the enemy field and heals you 6, and it's very powerful. She is one of the strongest cards in all of Runeterra. But again, she just always has this thing that balances her out by not having a deck that can complement her that well. Next we have Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger is really strong. A lot of people underrate Heimerdinger. It's played more in Europe, more in the EU server. I know that rank 1 in Europe plays Heimerdinger. I know that a lot of top 5 people in Europe play Heimerdinger. I know people in NA went 5 on the season with Heimerdinger. Basically, Heimerdinger is a super high skill deck, and if you play it smart and you're good with the deck and you're comfy, you can kind of maneuver your way out of most situations, and you just use Heimerdinger as a value engine. You don't need to kill them with elusives, because back is 3-mana turret used to be elusives, they nerfed it. Now it's fearsomes, but you just keep generating advantage over and over and over with Heimer, and as long as you play smart, trade well, you can kind of outgrind your opponent in most matchups. The Heimerdinger deck doesn't have very many bad matchups, but has a lot of good matchups. So I wish I could tell you what they were, but I haven't played as much Heimer this format. But I interviewed somebody who did, and he said that it has 50-50 against most of the field, but then there's a lot that are slight favored. Either way, Heimerdinger, amazing value engine, lets you outgrind most matchups. Next is Swain. Swain has fallen out of favor a bit this format because Twisted Fate, Swain got nerfed a bit, and Ezreal pairs with Draven mostly instead of Swain, but Swain, Ezreal is still a pretty good deck, and the Leviathan plus Swain is why he's so good. His level form's like, it's whatever. If you're able to get attacking, it's great, but it's basically Leviathan searches Swain, you play Swain, then it's a win condition by itself. Leviathan, then you stun their field and attack with Swain. It's mostly how good the Leviathan is with Swain, but they are 2 of a kind, so that combo is definitely an A+ tier combo. Next is Misfortune. Alright, Misfortune is also no champion, kind of like Karma, but a bit different. She's one of the best champions in the game as well, but suffers the same thing where her decks aren't that great. I love Misfortune, so I wish decks are better, but Scouts are really good, but they're good because she's so good. She kind of carries the whole deck. Pirate Aggro's good, but you don't level her up as much. She's kind of used for burn damage. You just attack with her. But I guess we'll talk about Scouts. Scouts can easily level her up. A lot of people say Scouts are as simple as if you draw Misfortune, you'll win. If you don't, you'll lose. Not entirely true, but that statement just shows the strength of Misfortune as a champion. She's very easy to level up. You just have to attack with Scouts. Scout attack, normal attack, Scout attack, normal attack. She levels up pretty easily. She makes great use out of Fleet-Footed Tracker and Valor and Quinn and all the challengers. She makes it so hard for the enemy field to block, pushes huge damage. She has solid stats, the 3/3, and then her level up form is game winning. So she's still A+ tier. Individually, she's probably a bit higher, but her decks aren't that great right now. Next, we have Fiora. Fiora is absolutely amazing. Wow. 3/3 challenger, pretty standard, but it's the win con she threatens. You have to answer her. With Shen Fiora, they have a lot of battle tricks and barriers to get her win condition. She controls the field. I mean, good stat. 3/3 challenger is amazing stats in general. I mean, if she wasn't, let's say there's a 3/3 challenger that wasn't a champion with that level up effect, you still play that. So the fact you can thread her level ability is insane. She's been used in so many tier decks in the past between Bannerman and Shen Fiora is one of the best decks in the game right now, which is always comes into the format being amazing for the most part. She's just well-rounded, not really many weak points. A lot of matchups can't deal with her level up condition, and she's one of the best performing decks in the seasonal tournament this format. So yeah, she's really good. Next is Zed. Zed was a lot better before Ezreal came back in the meta because that means more people are playing decks with Mystic Shot. Your Mystic Shot can deal with Zed extremely well because you play a 3-mana card, 3/2, that's Zed. You Mystic Shot for 2 and you lose value, but besides that, if you don't have Mystic Shot and you can't deal with Zed, he gets out of control. You play him, you attack, he pushes huge damage, threatens a quick attack, easy level up. It's basically if you don't have an answer for Zed, he wreaks havoc, and he's one of the strongest champions in the game. A lot of decks don't have access to removal for Zed, and with the Lee Sin Zed deck, now that Lee Sin's been nerfed a bit, is one of the stars of the show in that deck. Just by buffing him and controlling and protecting him, you can easily just win by chipping with Zed every single turn. He's very powerful. Basically, if you can't remove him, he's insane. All right, next is Kalista. Kalista is really good. It's used in Fearsomes for an easy level up condition. 4/3 Fearsome, very strong level up. Can use in Dehu and Dur. Basically, Kalista is just simple. As a 3-drop, before she's leveled up, she's a 4/3 Fearsome, which is decent. And, that's good enough. And then if you do level her up, she has an amazing level up form. Very hard to kill, pushes huge damage. She's extremely good with the Harrowing. Because with the Harrowing, if she dies, you can put her as the last attacker and level her up. Or if she dies and then she levels up, then she dies, you Harrowing and Reborn her. And basically, she just fits the Fearsome deck perfectly. And is also pretty stable in Dur. We got Anivia. Anivia decks are very popular as well. They kind of compete against the Trundle Tryndamere deck for the SI control. People thought Anivia was better for a while this season. People like Trundle. I think near the end of this season, Trundle ended up being the top dog. But Anivia is still really good, super to deal with. Alex, just straight up, the matchup spread's amazing. Shadow Freya just really strong right now. Decks can't deal with Anivia being reborn like that, off Harrowing, and just... It's basically that the strategy of Avalanche and healing and stuff and removal is very good. A lot of decks can't handle that. They aren't fit for that. It's a very specific type of deck. You need a specific type of matchup spread to beat it, and Anivia's just kind of holds it all together. Same way Trundle does. Next is Darius. Darius moved up a lot. This is probably the best Darius has ever been. He is amazing in all kinds of Overwhelm decks. You have Draven Darius Targon Overwhelm. You have Draven Darius Freya Overwhelm. You have Darius Sejuani Freya Overwhelm, which went undefeated at the seasonal tournament. You have Tryndamere. You have all kinds of Overwhelm decks. The Overwhelm decks that have all kinds of Overwhelm units. They have Decisive Maneuver is amazing because when you attack with him and Decisive Maneuver, it removes their blocker and Overwhelm damage comes direct. So basically, the way I see it, I've always been a big fan of Darius. He's probably my favorite champion in this game. Is that nothing else pushes damage like Darius. Darius pushes 10 damage with Overwhelm, which is... Decks just can't deal with that. If you're playing an aggro mirror match, let's say I'm playing Darius against Draven Jinx, they can't block that, and they just take like 6+ damage. It threatens huge damage. It's easy with the aggro decks to get them under 10 at the beginning. You play him and you just finish up. He's basically a huge bomb that can just steal so much damage at one turn. So his damage output's one of the biggest in the game, and he definitely gets a spot here. Next is Leona. Leona's on the rise. Might even get better. In the past, Leona decks have been kind of suspicious, not really been as potent as they are now. But Leona's just really strong to be anti-aggro, to hold on the field. Pretty easy level up if you have the Solarius, because Solarius are already good cards by themselves. And basically, she can guarantee you in a deck like Leona Aurelion Sol to get towards Aurelion Sol and then win. Like, Aurelion Sol is your endgame win condition, but Leona will always get you there. The Dairy pack is just amazing. Solari Soldier is really good. Solari Shield Bearer, Solari Priestess, her Ravun. So she's really good because her supporting archetype is really good. But just good stuns, can go for a game if she's leveled up with Ravun. Just a very well-run champion that can make it so you won't take too much damage in the mid-game and you'll get to your end game. Next is Diana. Diana's great. I love her in Nightfall. The issue is that Nightfall's a bit weaker this season, and she doesn't really have a place besides that deck. That's the only deck she's played in. So she's really good. I mean, a 2-mana 2/2 with Quick Attack Challenger lets you remove things, her level up form is amazing. It easily, with Pale Cascades and other Nightfall cards, gets to 5 attack, 7 attack, 9 attack. It can remove huge stats. You can use the level 2 Diana to remove like Darius or Karma or Swain or like Leviathan, like all kinds of stuff. So she's very, very good for a 2-drop, very strong, gets huge damage and value, but she just doesn't have a deck for her, and she's kind of hard to there's not much fit besides Nightfall. Nightfall's only as good as she's only as good as Nightfall is in the format. Nightfall's like decent. It's like average. Alright. At least right now. I used to think it was amazing. Maybe we'll be back one day. Anyways, Aurelion Sol. I think very highly of Aurelion Sol. A lot of decks can't beat Aurelion Sol on turn 10. Now they buffed the Eclipse Dragon. You can play Aurelion Sol on turn 8. One big perk of Leona Aurelion Sol is you play Dragon's Clutch, and the only 2 dragons you play are Aurelion Sol and Eclipse Dragon. So on turn 7, you'll have Eclipse Dragon. On turn 8, you'll have Aurelion Sol. So basically, you play him on turn 8, and you just win for the most part. It's really hard to beat him. Invokes are amazing at dealing with cards like Anivia, dealing with landmarks, dealing with all kinds of stuff. I mean, when he levels up, you instantly win the game, basically. But that's hard to do because they try and stop you. But they have to put all kinds of things into stopping you from leveling him up, and he's just a 10-10 already with Fury and Spell Shield that's giving you invokes every turn. I think very highly of him. He's a super great late game, and he's just one of the best late games in the game. I know that Lux Asol won the Master Europe tournament. Leon Asol, a lot of people won 5-0 with it in the seasonal, so it's really good. Next is Soraka and Tahm. These cards go together because they're played in the same deck. It's Soraka Tahm deck. They don't really get played anything else. I mean, you can play Soraka and Tahm in other decks, but they're just not that good in other decks. But Soraka's slightly better. She's just a value engine. She's super hard stat to deal with, draws you cards, easily loads up Star Spring. She's amazing. Then Tahm is the removal. They're 2 peas in a pod. This is definitely a tier 1 or high tier 2 deck, and they go together. So they're as good as that deck is, and that's good. Next is Vi. Vi's just a well-rounded removal. Like, she just holds down the mid game. You can challenge a weak unit, and then she lives. She has tough, and then later on you can trade her again with a bigger unit. So you're usually 2-for-1s. Can easily get super high attack. Just let you have a lot of interaction with her challenger and tough, so you can use her as removal. And she's just versatile. You could heal her with the Spring Guardian spell and gems, and she's very good at holding down the mid game and making things difficult for your opponent. Next we have Tryndamere. This is the highest Tryndamere ever been for sure. He does amazing in the Field of Rush deck with Trundle. You need him to win in that deck, I guess. Like, he's the other champion. He's a 10-10 overwhelm, and if you were to kill him, then he levels up instead and still pushes huge damage. Great atrocity. He's basically a bomb in the Shadow Fiora deck. He's like the win condition, and without him, the deck becomes significantly weaker. So yeah, he's really strong. Next is Shen. So Fiora's just good in general, like even without Shen playing dragons and stuff. But Shen is pretty much reliant on how good Fiora is. But as a pair, this is definitely a tier 1 or a high tier 2 deck. Shen's great. He gives the barriers for Fiora to level up. He lets you get safe attacks with River Shaper. He gives you barrier on other challengers and your Green Glade caretakers. So, yeah, very good. Next is Nocturne. Nocturne should be around Diana, but I don't know. It depends on the meta. Like, Nocturne's not that strong right now. He's expensive. Like, in Fearsomes, he's replaced by Kalista. Back in the day, people used to play Elise Nocturne, and then I started playing the deck, and I liked Elise Kalista. I think other people started playing Elise Kalista too, and most people just play Kalista over Nocturne. He's pretty much more tied. I don't know how to put it. He's more reliant on other cards. Like, he's more expensive than Diana. More to go right. Diana's just a 2-2 with challengers, so she's more simple for him, and her chance spells Pell Cascades, so that's amazing. But Nocturne's good as well in Nightfall. He's as good as Nightfall is, and again, average above average right now. So I like Nocturne a lot. I hope he gets good in the future, but it's just like the fact that he's not even played in Fearsomes makes him average. Next is Lee Sin. It's kind of funny seeing Lee Sin down here. He was the best champion last tier list, I believe. Even Zed's higher than him. They're in the same deck. Zed holding it down. They made Lee Sin cost an extra mana, which makes him a lot more fair. Comes in later, easier to manage. He pretty much lost a lot of strength, but the matchups that Lee Sin Zed wins are still extremely strong, which puts him in a good spot. Next is Sejuani. It's the longest Sejuani has ever been. Swain and Ass are in the same deck together. There isn't really another Sejuani deck right now, besides Overwhelm. But yeah, Sejuani Ass is a pretty decent deck. It loses to aggro. It loses to a lot of things, actually. Could have get some awkward hands, but still a very good deck. Still a solid tier 2 deck, so I'd put them both here. They're good. Next is Gangplank. It's the lowest Gangplank's ever been. A lot of these champions have been fluctuating this last patch. It was a pretty big patch. Gangplank just, like, aggro's just not that strong right now. And Gangplank is best when he's in the Pirate Burn deck. But the Pirate Burn deck got nerfed a lot. It's one of the weaker aggro decks. It's significantly worse than Fearsome. It's definitely worse than Draven Jinx. It's just that Gangplank kind of reaped on the strong aggro openings of Pirate aggro, and then you just play it as a bomb when they're already like almost dead, and then you win. But now the aggro, that Pirate aggro is easier to manage and doesn't really put on that pressure anymore. He comes down and it's like, oh, okay, well I just have to remove this Gangplank and I'll be fine. He's still good though. Max is Nautilus. Nautilus is broken, but he's in Deep, so like Deep's not bad. It's a good deck, but it's like the whole deck centered around him. He's not splashable in any other deck, and you know his whole entire thing. You have to turn 7. You have to be Deep. When you give him level up, he's phenomenal, but he's pretty narrow. You can only use him one way, so he's still good. I put him minus 8 tier. People wanted to put him lower, but I think he's just so strong in that deck, so I put him here. Next is Thresh. Thresh is amazing in Spooky Karma. Without Thresh and Spooky Karma, the deck becomes a lot less consistent and a lot weaker. It's a key part of the deck. It's a good deck. I think that he shines so hard in that deck that at least puts him here. That's just pretty good. Put Quinn here. Quinn's playing Scouts with Misfortune. It's a solid deck. I think it's better than most of these other decks, so I put Quinn here. She's actually like pretty underrated. A lot of people say Quinn's really bad, but I know that she's relied on Misfortune, but when you have her with Misfortune, she's super strong. And I just thought like Lucian's best deck is worse than Quinn's best deck and stuff like that. So she's good in Scouts. Go to Lucian. Lucian Misfortune Scouts is not as good as Quinn Misfortune Scouts. Lucian just got buffed, which is nice. Maybe we'll see play with the new cards, but he's decent. Doesn't really have a home right now, so it kind of puts him in a weird spot. But he's still a good standalone champion. 3-2 quick attack. When he levels up, he's extremely strong, so that's good. Lux here. Lux isn't really that made decks right now. The only deck is Lux Aesol. It's very, very few amount of people play that. It's a great deck, but most people prefer Leona Aesol, so her only good deck is kind of interchangeable with most people agree to play Leona Aesol. I think it's like a better version of a similar concept. So she doesn't really have anything that makes her special right now. I think that she's a really strong champion. I usually put her like really high, like A+ or A, but right now, nothing too good for her. Next is Shyvana. Dragons are pretty weak right now. I mean, they're not really that completely functional archetype. She just got buffed, which makes her a lot higher than she used to be. She used to be like a bottom 5 champion. Now she's here. Actually pretty good, though. When you play her on turn 4, it becomes a 5/5. She's good. It's just that dragons have problems, so that leaves her with problems. Next is Teemo. Teemo's nice, and he's a good champion overall. It's the one with elusive that puts in the poison puff caps and threatens aggro damage, but loses to go hard. Kind of single-handedly beats Teemo and puts him in a low spot right now. We have Maokai next. Maokai's a lot lower than Nautilus because right now in Deep, there's a lot of ways to deal with Maokai. Like, a lot of this meta just has removed from Maokai. I know a lot of players, I know in Spain, there's a player in Spain who's a big enthusiast of Deep who got top 4 in the Master Europe tournament, and he doesn't play Maokai anymore. He just said there's too many ways to deal with him, and I've experienced it myself. Still good, still gives you auto win condition. You need Maokai. I think you still play him in Deep just because he gives you ways to beat Shadow Fair Control, like Anivia and stuff like that, and like Tryndamere, and a lot of matchups just can't deal with. It's a win condition. It's a win condition to get his level form off, but his level 1 form's weaker right now just because there's so many ways to deal with him. Next is Garen. Garen's a solid champion. He's good in elites. Elites are actually like decent, like low tier 2 maybe mid tier 2 if you're optimistic. They're good, but he's only played that one deck, and he can just be killed easily by like. I don't know, just cards like, I know Ravenous Flock doesn't kill him because he has 5 health, but you deal with damage to him and you Ravenous Flock him, and it's just like 1 mana card kills a 5 mana card, so pretty rough. Next we have Hecarim. Not many decks for Hecarim. I know that some people like playing Hecarim Rekindler Mistrace with like its more controlled version with like Vengeance and Grasp and Vile Feast. It went undefeated this seasonal tournament so far, but besides that one deck, he doesn't have much of a place. He's pretty standard, pretty average compared to most champions, so he's here. He's still good though. Next is Braum. Braum's actually decent. A lot of people can't deal with Braum. There's new cards coming that are good with Braum, and he's good in Anivia decks. Usually overshadowed by just playing mono Anivia, but he's an option for Anivia decks, and he can hold the game down. Good in Poros, which are actually like a sleeper good deck right now. A decent low tier 2 or mid tier 2 deck if you're being optimistic. So Braum's actually quite good. Next is Fizz. Ever since Hush came out, Fizz has kind of been not that great. Not that he was like insane before, but he was at least higher, like higher up B, maybe even A. I don't know. He was higher, but. Yeah, Hush just beats Fizz pretty hard. Fizz decks in general are kind of weak just because other decks are stronger. It's not like there's anything wrong with this deck, that other decks have great strategies and they're very powerful. And Fizz can just die to like red card by Twisted Fate and stuff like that, but he's still decent. Next we have Yasuo. I love Yasuo, but his deck has problems. You can have too many stun cards in hand without Yasuo, and then your deck Just stuns for no reason. If you draw Yasuo without stuns, doesn't do much. He's easy to remove. Basically allows us to go right in Yasuo decks, but when it does go right, it's amazing, and he does great. Next is Taric. Taric's, like, when he gets like, he seems like he should be better, but there's just so many ways to disrupt him. So you have to have Taric, then you have to have a spell to use with Taric, then you have to have an ally to support. So if you don't have the spell, or you remove Taric, or you remove the unit that Taric is going to support, or you stun them, there's just so many ways to disrupt Taric. And whenever they try to buff Taric, they just inadvertently buff Lee Sin, because he's just like, benefits all the same stuff Taric does, but he's just better. So Taric just like, a lot can go wrong, and it's always disrupt him, and even when you get his stuff off, the payoff isn't usually that high, so it's like the decks have problems. It's kind of a liability to play Taric a lot of the time. Next is Lulu. I think Lulu's actually super good. It just that she's in a deck right now. Ever since they nerfed War Chefs, the Demacia support deck hasn't really existed, and she hasn't had really found a home since then. I mean, there's decks that like are decent, like Shen Lulu or Zed Lulu, but overall, there's just stronger strategies, and it's easy to disrupt the support chains, and they lose like board clears and stuff like that. I don't know. The decks just always feel a bit weaker than everything else. She's good. I think she'll find her time again once either they buff War Chefs again back, or she gets a new support card. She could be good. But for now, she's here. Next, we have Vlad. Vlad just got buffed, moving him above Katarina. He's getting support, this new cards, and he can be good in certain burn decks. He's good in his own Vlad Braum deck, but the Vlad Braum deck's always been like tier 3, low tier 2. I don't know. Being optimistic, low tier 2. I know, I try to be optimistic and say decks can be good or be in tier 2, but Vlad struggles. It's basically his supporting archetype. Like, he's not the greatest champion, but he's still fine as a good champ spell. But his supporting archetype is pretty weak. I mean, you have Crimson Disciple, Crimson Curator, but those are, like, a decent card. Like, they're good, but they're, like, not that good. Like, Curator's good, but it's just, like, you're kind of playing a deck with a bunch of average cards with the average champion, and you don't really have decks. It's like the other champions are all just stronger. The whole deck is average. But it is a cool deck, and hope it gets better. Last is Katarina. I like Katarina a lot. I like playing on Yasuo. She's cool in that, but this last expansion, this last patch, they buffed a lot of champions, and they didn't buff Katarina, even though she was the worst. They said that it's hard to buff her without her being repetitive or, I guess, stale gameplay, where you just keep summoning her over and over again. For example, if she's level 3 at her base form, level 1 form. When you level her up, she becomes 4 cost. But if you make her 3 cost also in a level form, you just keep playing her over and over the rest of the game, so it doesn't make for good gameplay, they said. So I don't know. Katarina just kind of... Her biggest issue is that she loses field control. I don't like reworking champions that much because I like the way she is. She's cool. I just wish she was better, but... yeah, she maybe needs a rework. I don't know. We'll see. I like it the way she is, but I hope she gets better. Basically, when you play her and you attack, she goes back to your hand, and when you play her again, she rallies. But whenever she attacks, she goes back to your hand. So you're playing a decently expensive card, like a 3-mana, 4-mana card, then it goes back to your hand, which is usually not good in Runeterra. Like, you're playing a card, and then it comes off the field, which just loses you a lot of tempo, loses you field control. It's just costly, and you kind of give up a lot of the momentum you gain from her whenever she attacks, which is counterproductive because the whole point of her is to, like, do huge pushes, but then when you do a push and then she goes back to your hand, then they're just like, oh, well, okay, well, now your field's a lot weaker because you lost a unit. Then they just take the field back, and then next time you can't take the field back because they already took it from you. Like, you get a good push, you take the field back, and the next time you go Katarina, you're out of steam, and then you're just like, okay, I can't really do much. But we'll see what happens. That's my champion tier list right now. New champions are coming soon, so I'll definitely be sure to update this video with the new champions. But I hope you enjoyed it. Well, if you have any questions or you have any different opinions in the comments below, and I stream every day on Twitch at 6:30 p.m. EST. So I'll see you there. Peace.